Hotels see millions of travelers every year, and with them come forgotten belongings. But while most of us leave behind a sock, a phone charger, or maybe even a pair of sunglasses, some guests have left behind things so bizarre that hotel staff couldn't stop talking about it for years. Today, we're diving into the 33 strangest things ever left behind in US hotels, and trust me, this list gets crazier the further we go. Stick around to the very end, because number 1 will make you question everything you thought you knew about hotel guests. And hey, if you love wild and unbelievable lists like this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss one of our crazy countdowns. All right, let's get started. 1. A full suit of medieval armor. Housekeepers at a high-end hotel in Boston thought they had walked into a historical drama when they opened the door and found a full, gleaming knight suit of armor standing in the corner. Helmet, breastplate, shield, the works. The armor looked like it belonged in a castle museum, not on hotel carpet. The strangest part? The guest who left it never called back for it, leaving staff wondering if he was a hardcore collector, or maybe just a cosplayer who got tired of carrying it around. 2. A bag of 200 rubber ducks. Imagine walking into a bathroom and, instead of towels, finding the tub packed with bright yellow rubber ducks. Not one or two, over 200 of them, all staring back with their beady little eyes. Staff said the sound of them squeaking together was enough to drive you mad. Was it an art installation? A prank? Or maybe the guest just had a thing for ducks? Whatever the reason, it turned cleanup into a very strange squeak fest. 3. A wedding dress, with tags still on. A hotel in Las Vegas reported finding a pristine white wedding gown shoved into a closet, tags still dangling from the sleeve. No signs of wear, no veil, nothing. The staff couldn't help but speculate. Did the bride change her mind? Was there a runaway groom situation? Or was it just a backup dress that got forgotten? Either way, it's haunting to think of a wedding dress meant for a day of joy, just left behind like an old shirt. 4. A giant stuffed giraffe. Staff at a Chicago hotel were speechless when they opened the door to find a 7-foot stuffed giraffe sprawled across the bed. Too tall to even stand upright in the room, the thing had been propped sideways against the wall. The question wasn't just why bring a giraffe, but how did they even get it through the lobby without raising eyebrows? Guests and staff joked about charging the giraffe an extra occupancy fee. 5. A live snake in the bathtub. Nothing prepares a housekeeper for pulling back the shower curtain and finding a writhing snake coiled inside the tub. That's exactly what happened at a Florida hotel. The snake was alive and very much unhappy about being abandoned. Staff had to call animal control, and the guest never showed up to claim it. To this day, no one knows if it was a pet or something much creepier. 6. An envelope full of $20,000 in cash. This one could have been straight out of a crime thriller. A maid in New York found a thick envelope tucked inside the nightstand Bible. When opened, it revealed stacks of $100 bills, about $20,000 in total. For 2 days, no one came forward, and the hotel wasn't sure if it should call the police. Finally, a frantic guest returned, claiming it, saying it was for a business deal. Staff couldn't help but wonder, was it legit or something shady? 7. A prosthetic leg. Hotels across the country have stories of guests leaving behind prosthetic limbs, but one hotel in Texas found a prosthetic leg propped casually against the bed, almost like it was taking a nap. The staff joked about how it was the most expensive lost shoe they'd ever seen. Surprisingly, the guest called back in a panic the very next morning. Guess it's hard to get very far without it. 8. A signed baseball by Babe Ruth. One housekeeping worker in New Jersey nearly tossed a dusty baseball found under a bed until another staff member noticed faded ink across the leather. It turned out to be a signature from Babe Ruth himself. Later appraisals valued it at tens of thousands of dollars. The guest never returned for it, leaving the hotel with a piece of American sports history. 9. A mannequin dressed like a guest. At first glance, staff thought someone was still sitting in the chair, shirt, hat, sunglasses, and all. But when they got closer, they realized it was just a mannequin dressed to look like a real person. Who brings a mannequin to a hotel? Some speculated it was a lonely traveler, while others joked it was a fake do not disturb trick. Either way, it gave everyone a heart attack at first. 10. A stack of 300 pancakes. You expect leftovers in a hotel room, but not an entire buffet. Staff in Denver found a perfectly stacked tower of pancakes, nearly 300 of them, sitting neatly on the desk. No syrup, no butter, just pancakes. They weren't even eaten. Whether it was for a food challenge or some kind of bizarre art statement, no one knows. But the smell of syrupless batter lingered in the room for days. 11. An urn of ashes. One of the saddest discoveries is when housekeeping finds cremation urns. In a California hotel, an urn was discovered, carefully placed on the windowsill, as if the person wanted their loved one to enjoy the view. Strangely, no one ever called to claim it. Staff kept it in Lost and Found for years before handing it over to authorities. 12. A life-sized cardboard cutout of Beyoncé. A maid nearly screamed when she walked in and saw Beyoncé standing in the corner. Except it wasn't Queen Bee herself, it was a cardboard cutout. The guest had apparently traveled with it, maybe for fun or maybe for motivation. But when they left, Beyoncé stayed behind, silently judging every maid who entered afterward. 13. A complete beekeeper suit. One hotel in Utah reported finding a full beekeeper outfit, helmet, gloves, smoker, everything laid out on the bed. No bees were found, thankfully, but the staff couldn't understand why someone needed bee protection in the middle of the city. Theories ranged from hobbyist to bee smuggler. 14. A golden toilet seat. Luxury gone too far? One guest left behind a gold-plated toilet seat. Yes, real gold, heavy and shiny. The staff couldn't decide if it was an art piece, stolen property, or just proof that some people literally travel with their own throne. 15. A collection of 50 voodoo dolls. Creepiest of all, one hotel reported finding dozens of voodoo dolls neatly arranged on the desk, each pinned with needles. Staff refused to clean the room until management came, fearing they'd be cursed. The guest? Never heard from again. 16. A samurai sword. In a hotel room in Los Angeles, staff found what looked like something straight out of a Japanese movie, a full-length samurai katana, polished and sharpened to perfection, hidden under the bed. The sword was so sharp that staff had to handle it with gloves before locking it up for safekeeping. Nobody knows why a traveler would bring such a weapon into a hotel. Was it for martial arts practice, cosplay, or something darker? The eerie part is that the guest never came back for it. 17. A goat. Yes, a living, breathing goat. When staff opened the door to a rural hotel in Kentucky, they expected to find an empty room. Instead, a goat was tied to the bedpost, munching happily on the sheets. How the guest managed to smuggle a goat through the lobby without being noticed is still a mystery. Animal control was called, and the goat was safely relocated to a local farm. Staff joked that at least the goat left fewer messes than some human guests. 18. A grandfather clock. Imagine walking into a hotel room and hearing the steady tick-tock of a massive grandfather clock. Staff in Pennsylvania did just that. The antique clock stood taller than most guests and looked like it belonged in a Victorian parlor, not a modern hotel suite. Getting it out of the room was a logistical nightmare. It took 3 employees just to maneuver it down the hall. The guest never returned, leaving behind a piece of family history, or maybe stolen history. 19. A fully decorated Christmas tree in July. Housekeepers in Orlando opened the door to find a 7-foot Christmas tree in the corner, fully decorated with tinsel, ornaments, and blinking lights, even though it was the middle of summer. To make things stranger, the guest had wrapped empty boxes to look like presents and placed them underneath. Staff wondered if the guest just loved Christmas too much, or if they were celebrating it on their own schedule. 20. A tank full of exotic fish. In Miami, staff were baffled to find a large glass aquarium bubbling away in the middle of a room, filled with exotic fish of bright blues, oranges, and yellows. The guest had simply left the entire tank behind, water, fish, and all. Staff scrambled to keep the fish alive until local aquarists could come to rescue them. It wasn't just strange, it was one of the most expensive forgotten items they'd ever dealt with. 21. Elvis Presley's autographed guitar. Las Vegas hotels have seen some wild things, but this one topped them all. An authentic guitar signed by Elvis Presley himself. It was left leaning against a dresser, almost like someone forgot it after strumming a few tunes. The staff couldn't believe their eyes, and experts later confirmed its authenticity. With a value in the tens of thousands, this was less a forgotten item and more like leaving behind buried treasure. 22. A bag of fresh carrots, 100 pounds worth. One hotel in Denver smelled strangely earthy after a guest checked out. When staff entered, they found sacks upon sacks of fresh carrots, nearly 100 pounds in total. No note, no explanation. Just carrots stacked neatly near the television. Was the guest a farmer, a rabbit enthusiast, or on the world's strangest juice cleanse? Nobody knows, but staff said they donated them all to a local shelter, so at least they didn't go to waste. 23. A pair of crystal chandeliers. Imagine peeking under the bed and finding not dust bunnies, but 2 massive crystal chandeliers wrapped carefully in bubble wrap. That's what hotel staff in New York discovered. The chandeliers were so heavy, it took 2 men to lift each one. Were they stolen from another location, or just decorative pieces someone couldn't fit in their suitcase? The guest never came back, and the chandeliers ended up in storage. 24. A collection of 300 garden gnomes. This one sounds like a prank, but it was all too real. In Portland, staff walked into a room filled wall-to-wall with ceramic garden gnomes. Each one was positioned as if they were staring out the window together, an army of smiling little statues. The room was so unsettling that staff nicknamed it the Gnome Army Suite. Nobody knows how the guest managed to haul them all in or why they left them behind. 25. A stash of 50 exotic snakeskins. A hotel in Arizona found something truly bizarre. Dozens of dried, carefully folded snakeskins stored in a suitcase. They weren't from common snakes either. Many were exotic species, rarely seen in the US. The collection looked like it belonged in a biology lab or a black market shop. Staff immediately contacted authorities, who confirmed that some of the skins were likely illegal imports. 26. A canoe. Not a model canoe, not a toy canoe, a full-sized wooden canoe. Staff in Minnesota opened the door to find the canoe leaning against the wall, nearly touching the ceiling. Nobody had seen it being carried into the hotel, and staff had no clue how it got past the front desk. Moving it out required a dolly and 3 strong employees. The guest? Long gone, no forwarding number. 27. A full Santa Claus suit, complete with beard. In a Chicago hotel, staff found a luxurious red Santa suit hanging neatly in the closet, complete with boots, gloves, and a fluffy white beard. The weird part? It was March. Christmas was long over, and nobody came back to claim it. Some staff joked that maybe Santa had been on vacation and forgot his outfit before heading back to the North Pole. 28. A stack of rare comic books. In Los Angeles, housekeeping found a pile of comic books under the bed. At first, they thought they were just old magazines. But upon closer inspection, they realized they were first editions, including early Marvel and DC issues worth thousands of dollars. The staff carefully locked them away, but the guest never came back. Somewhere out there, a comic book fan has been crying for years. 29. A live peacock. Yes, an actual peacock, strutting proudly across the balcony of a Florida hotel suite. Guests in neighboring rooms called the front desk to report strange noises, and staff eventually discovered the majestic bird had been left behind. Animal services were called, but not before staff snapped plenty of photos of the unexpected guest. 30. A giant safe, locked shut. At a hotel in Las Vegas, staff were stunned to find a massive safe, over 500 pounds, sitting in the middle of the room. It had been bolted to the floor, and nobody had the code to open it. The guest vanished without a trace, leaving staff wondering what was inside. To this day, the contents remain a mystery. 31. A collection of 40 bowling balls. In Wisconsin, housekeeping discovered 40 bowling balls neatly arranged in carrying bags along the wall. Each one was custom drilled and weighed differently, as if the guest was a serious bowling fanatic, or perhaps running a side hustle. But transporting dozens of heavy bowling balls is no small feat, and staff couldn't understand why the guest didn't just bring them back. 32. A replica of the Liberty Bell. In Philadelphia, staff were and stared at a giant replica of the Liberty Bell, standing proudly in the corner of the room. It was half the size of the real one and weighed hundreds of pounds. Nobody could figure out how it had been moved in, or why someone would just abandon it. It took professional movers to finally wheel it out of the hotel. 33. A python skeleton in a glass case. Perhaps the strangest of all, staff in Las Vegas walked into a room and found a perfectly preserved python skeleton encased in glass, displayed like museum art. The bones stretched nearly 15 feet, a haunting sight to stumble upon unexpectedly. The guest who left it never called back, and the hotel was left with one of the creepiest lost and found items ever. And there you have it, the 33 strangest, creepiest, and most unbelievable things ever left behind in U.S. hotels. From goats and peacocks to medieval armor and golden toilet seats, these stories prove that hotel staff have truly seen it all. So, let me ask you, which one of these shocked you the most? Was it the python skeleton, the mysterious locked safe, or maybe the live goat tied to the bedpost? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you think. If you enjoyed this countdown, don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next jaw-dropping list. Thanks for watching, and remember, before you check out of your next hotel room, double-check your luggage. You never know what you might accidentally leave behind.